And we are live. Welcome back to the Content Swap Podcast. It has been a while. Hope you're doing well, dear listener. If you're new to the Content Swap Podcast, this is a podcast in which we assign a piece of content at the end of every episode, engage with it for the week, and then we discuss during the episode. So you are joined by, I forgot to do this part, you are joined by Parker and
Aaliyah.
Hey there.
Hi.
All the way over there.
My head hurts.
Well, before we dive into this week's assigned picks, pieces of content, or swapped content, we like to provide a little update. It's been 2 weeks since we have recorded. So
why did we skip a week again?
We skipped a week because we went on a trip to Kentucky
for
your birthday.
For my birthday.
Yeah.
Like, what is time?
Which also feels like it was a while ago.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Time is full. I can't believe we're already almost done with September.
Yeah. The last podcast episode was posted on like August 29th.
That's insane.
And it's like we're almost halfway done with September.
That just stressed me out. That like actually just caused me internal panic.
You just had like a visceral gut reaction?
Yeah. I might throw up.
Oh no. You gonna make it for this hour and a half long episode?
We'll see.
I'm projecting hour and a half, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Sorry, did I cut you off?
No.
Okay.
Well, we always like to provide a little news update of what's new. We already mentioned your birthday and going to Kentucky.
Yes.
But, take it away. What's up? What's new?
Yeah, I had a great birthday. So this is not necessarily, I guess.
How old did you turn?
27.
You didn't turn 25?
No.
You know how they say, like, oh, I turned 20, like, some people when they turn 25, they're like, then they just turn 25 every year after that.
Oh my gosh, no, I can't wait to be like 40.
Oh.
I'm ready to be 40. I just I'm so tired of, I'm like the only person who feels this way. Everyone's like, in my 20s, I want to stay in my 20s. I'm like, no, get me out of the 20s.
I'm about to be 30 and I'm like, that it does not feel like I'm about to be 30, but it feels kind of cool.
I'm like, get me into retirement. When is that?
Oh my gosh.
I'm ready to chill. I'm ready to be in a house, to relax, to have lived life, and be like, I'm done. I'm living. I'm chilling.
That's what we do now, but without the I am
not chilling. I am anxiety ridden 24/7.
Oh, okay. My bad. Also, I totally cut you off earlier, so please.
That's okay. Yeah, I turned 27. It was great. It was fun. I got to see my sister, my brother-in-law, my niece, and yeah, it was wonderful. It was nice to just be in a different place for a little bit. This is not new for me, but new for you, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I don't even know how we started it, but I was like, have you seen Scream Queens? And you were like,
oh yeah.
You were like, yeah, I've seen Scream Queens. I was like, no, not that Scream Queens, not the one that you're thinking of, because I know which one you're thinking of.
Not the TV show with like Leah Michele and Emma Roberts. No.
I was like, no, not that mess. I mean, I love that show, at least the first season. I was like, not that. The reality TV show where the girls are actors trying to get a role on Saw 6.
Yeah.
You were like, what?
It's a VH1 reality show. When you think of like, it's in that era of VH1 reality shows of like
Flavor of Love.
Yeah, Flavor of Love. Shot at Love with Tila Tequila.
Yeah. And it's wild. We watched the whole first season on YouTube.
Yeah,
and
it's a quick watch.
It was so fun, and I was so glad to relive that with you.
The best part of that whole show is that they have to the judges, I guess, are like one of the actresses from the Saw franchise.
Yeah.
This casting, or no, not casting director. He's like an acting coach.
Yeah.
Who seems like he's wearing a toupee, but I'm not sure.
You're so stuck on this man's hair.
I know. And then a director who directs challenges. Like he directs them at the end of every episode to do some kind of specific scene, right? And that director just so happened to be James Gunn.
Yeah.
Like the guy that directed Guardians of the Galaxy 1, 2, 3, The Suicide Squad. He's now like the head of DC Films.
Yeah.
Just absolutely wild. Like I did not. That was such a curveball when they were like, Hollywood director James Gunn.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? But it makes total sense. Like, given what I already knew about his background, this totally fits with what he would have done in 2008 when this show came out.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Highly recommend. Go check it out.
Yeah.
I wish we could do a whole episode just talking about that.
I know. A part of me, I like kind of wish I had assigned it. I just like it. And it wasn't even on my list of content swaps. Like, this is something that's just, like, so... It was buried so deep within me. And then, like, for some reason, I was like... I just thought about the show. And I was like, have you heard of that show? Because no one's heard of it. And then, I was like, I'm in the mood to watch. Let's just put it on.
The whole thing was, like, a fever dream. Right? Like, it was so bizarre. Yeah. And as soon as we started watching it, it was all I could think about.
I know, we were like, we have to keep watching.
Like, I need to, before we went to bed, it was like, Scream Queen? Yeah, okay, cool.
We gotta watch season 2, baby.
There's a season 2?
There's a season 2.
Oh, sweet.
On YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Is James Gunn still there?
Oh, I don't know. I can't remember.
Okay.
I watched it when it was like airing on TV. It was so long ago, and I never watched it ever again.
So they compete in the first season to be in Saw 6. So does that mean that they competed in the second season to be in Saw 3D, which is Saw 7?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Or
I'm assuming so.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting that they can manage to pull that off as like a VH1 reality show, and that the winner can have a role in like a major Hollywood production, given that it's like a Saw movie, but it's like a late installment in the Saw franchise, so they can kind of like get away with like, it's almost trudging into the B movie territory, but it's not quite there yet, so it's still, they can still sell it as a major Hollywood motion picture, but it's you know, it's on the...
It's low stakes.
Low stakes. Very low stakes. Yeah.
For sure. No, I absolutely love it. I mean, it is highly, highly problematic.
Oh, it's so problematic, but that's kind of part of the charm.
No, it is not charming.
Well, okay. That's part of it. Adds.
It gives it shock value.
It gives it a lot of shock value.
It's like you're like,
I was gonna say
my
entertainment
gosh.
value, but shock value might be the more appropriate term here.
Yeah, you're like, I cannot believe this is what I watched, and like I didn't. Like, you think back, like, of course it was shocking back then too. Like, you know, racist comments were always racist.
Racist,
like, we all
and homophobic comments that were just kind of aired on national television.
Yeah, but it's like nowadays we're so much more like we have zero tolerance for it, and like it's very much like it won't even, if it's on, like it would never even make it on the air type of thing.
No.
So like to go back and watch it and be like, we just let this happen.
It just flew. Yeah.
We just let it happen, and we moved on to the next episode and the next season, and like we just kept going. And it's like it's like the same thing of America's Next Top Model, where you're like, the fact that there was a challenge where they like switched races, and like you have models and like blackface, and we just were like, okay,
no.
Like, it's just like, wow, what a time.
Reality television. I mean, reality television is still around. I would say it's evolved in the streaming era.
Yeah.
But that network television reality show, like, just era of just problematic behavior, there's nothing quite like that.
Yep. It's crazy. But if you want an insane reality gimmick,
go check out Scream Queens.
Go check out Scream Queens. It's so entertaining, and the challenges are so ridiculous. The acting challenges.
Yeah, they have to do these acting challenges where we're spending a long time on this. But like, what was one of the acting challenges?
Like the director's challenges, or like,
either one. And just give an example of something that they have to do.
Like playing an evil version of yourself, and so like you're having to talk to basically a green screen. It's like, can you bring in the emotion of like both sides?
Okay,
while
that
looking
was
at nothing.
That was like on the more legitimate side of acting challenges that they have to do. There's an acting challenge where they are all being given different roles.
Yeah.
And it's like some of them have to wear like bikinis and be kind of scantily clad.
Yeah.
And like
This
two
is
of
a zombie
them,
one.
I think so. Yeah. And two of them have to like make out, and there's like a whole make out scene. And like I think in the first episode, there's a challenge that just requires them to get in their swimsuits. And I remember commenting like, of course, like put them in their swimsuits in the first episode so that you could see everybody in their swimsuits.
Yeah,
it's like
it's
that
so
would
problematic.
not like that's so problematic.
It's so problematic. It's like how far are they willing to go for
Right.
like the role? Pretty much like every episode, it's like, you know, the scene can require nudity. You can go full nude or you can wear a bikini. Your choice. And then they're like, what do I do?
They're like,
you
wait,
know?
I don't feel comfortable with this. It's like, well, do it, or else you're not gonna have a career in Hollywood.
But
it's so messed up.
It's so messed up. It's so messed up. But despite that, what I do love, because like also the judges are like kind of wild, but James Gunn, his directing style,
He's a great director.
is so phenomenal.
You're right.
I was like, that man is so caring. The way that he talks to them, and it's like
He's like present with their struggles,
Right.
Trying to help them.
and some of them are really bad.
Right.
Some of them are very bad, but he does not like talk to them as though they're very bad. Like he talks to them as though they're like Angelina Jolie just having a bad day.
Right.
You know, like you know, he's just like, you know, like what's going on? Like I know you can do this.
Yeah, like do you just get nervous or something?
Like what's
Like, what?
happening?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just that was just so refreshing to see. Because like when I saw him, like when he first popped up, I was like, like am I gonna be like,
because he was briefly canceled for tweets he put out in like 2009, which is like a year after this.
Yikes.
But given, you know, reflecting on that, and having seen that he was on this VH1 show, that is like infinitely more problematic than the tweets that he put out. But he's not the problem on the show.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you know what? It's fine. Not that bad.
Yeah. It's interesting. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all the updates I have. Not much else is going on. I finished a crochet project, which was fun. I am back in my book rut. I am a part of a rom-com book club, and there's a book we need to have read by like next week, and I have not started it, so we'll see if I get it read. I plan to start a new game because I did finish Little Miss Fortune, which I don't know if I mentioned that.
You did.
Yeah. So I plan to start a new game called Nuts. We'll see how that goes. And yeah.
Nuts is it's about watching squirrels, right?
Yeah. It's kind of like, if anyone's familiar with the game Firewatch, which I'm only familiar with because you played.
Great game, 10 out of 10. Highly recommend.
Yeah. It's kind of like stylistically like that. But it's essentially you're watching these squirrels over the course of a few like days and nights. And like the squirrels are starting to do like weird things, and like you're finding weird things, and it's kind of like piecing the mystery together of like what's going on
What's
here.
up with these squirrels?
Yeah.
These squirrels are nuts.
The squirrels, they're doing weird things.
Squirrel.
Yeah, so I'm interested to play. So
Yeah, no, I'm really interested to hear about what you think of that and just what the whole thing is.
yeah,
Looks like something I would check out. So
yeah,
let me know.
will do. I didn't mention that I finished Little Miss Fortune because I finished that
you
over
didn't?
Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, you didn't mention that you finished it, but we talked at length about it in the last episode.
Yeah, well, I did finish that game.
Nice.
I liked it.
Nice.
I recommend it if you're looking for a nice spooky game.
Rating out of 5.
I give it a 4.
Nice. That's good.
Yeah.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yep. What's
All
up
right.
with you?
What is up with me? Okay, so the live action One Piece TV show came out on Netflix, and I really liked it. I'm a big One Piece fan. I've been talking about One Piece since we started this podcast because I like started watching it as an adult like 6 months prior to starting this podcast, which speaks to how long I've been watching
I was
this show.
just gonna say, you started 6 months prior to the podcast.
I know. I have been watching One Piece for 2 years, and I am on like episode 604, I believe. And there's still there's like 450 more episodes left in order for me to get caught up. So it's been coming out consistently for like almost every week for what 20, 23, 24, 24 years.
How do they crank out so many episodes and then like anime like Jujutsu Kaisen takes like 10 years for one season?
One Piece has its own dedicated team, I am sure. You know, I mean, like the team that works on Jujutsu Kaisen maybe also worked on Attack on Titan, or maybe some of those people also worked on Chainsaw Man. Yeah. And I feel like when you start up working at Toei Animation, it's like as soon as you are put on the One Piece team, you are on the One Piece team for the
One Piece for life.
One Piece for life. Yeah, no. Like seriously.
Oh my gosh. But still, how do they like so the manga like are they keeping up with the manga? Is the manga like
the manga is ahead of the anime right now. Oh the manga is always ahead of the anime, but this kind of I mean, I wasn't trying to talk about One Piece anime, but the problem with that, like the manga is always just ahead of the anime, which then means that the anime has had to really slow down in like the back 500. So like it just kind of starts to get to a point of like where very little is happening, which is why I watch it dubbed in the background while I'm doing something else. Because if I was just sitting and watching it, it's not necessarily that they're putting out filler. Like they're not filler.
Prolonging things.
I mean, they used to put out filler arcs like in the first 400 or so episodes, but then they stopped doing filler arcs, and then they just started prolonging everything. So it's like filler in the sense of like, maybe we'll be panning on this shot for like, 5, 15, 20 seconds or something. Yeah. Which is just like a single panel on the page.
That's so funny.
That's like a third of a page. That's
hilarious. Got you.
So anyway, I'm a big fan of One Piece, all that said.
Yeah.
And they made a live action show. It's it's good enough, it's popular enough for Netflix to say, let's make a live action version of this. And there's been so many live action adaptations that just did not work. I mean, so many things have been adapted into live action. And this is, I mean, if you read anything about this show, then I'm just going to be essentially sounding like an echo of the whole internet. But like, this is the one adaptation, or at least one of the only adaptations I've seen that shows like perfect amounts of love and care towards its source material, and taking that source material, recognizing it, and like honoring the important beats of it, but then also adapting certain beats to fit the live action medium, and also like wisely cutting out what should be cut out, but also like working things in that that like maybe somebody, like, it feels like it's made by a team that said like, if somebody else were adapting this, they would not choose to do like this weird, they would not choose to include this weird thing from the source material, because maybe it wouldn't translate to live action, and people might think, like a general audience might see that and go, that's kind of weird, I don't know. And they said, no, that's the appeal of the show. And they keep things like that. Like one example is that like all of the phones that everybody uses One Piece is about pirates, and they don't necessarily have like, looking at it on the surface, you don't think that there's like crazy technology in the One Piece universe, even though there actually is, because it's an eclectic universe. But everybody's phone is a snail. Like if somebody needs to make a phone call, they pick up like this receiver on the back of a snail, and when somebody like speaks, the speaker is the mouth of the snail. And that's just like, that's in the anime. They don't explain it, and they like included that detail in the live action where it's like, it's somebody makes a phone call and they're like using this snail phone thing, and it's like the weirdest thing. But like, you know, they kept things like that. They kept those kinds of details, and again, they also still like did not explain it. It's just there. You accept it. And you're like, wow, that's neat. Like it includes those details that would let a viewer who has never seen it before still kind of have that same first time experience, like that full first time experience you would get watching just the animated show. Of like the world building and the introduction to the universe. So it does like a pretty incredible job. The casting is really great. The acting is not always great, but some parts are pretty good. So overall, I am really satisfied with it, and I never in a million years would have thought that we'd be living in a world where a live action One Piece show came out and people liked it.
Also, whoever is the stylist for all of those actors during their press needs the biggest pay raise.
Yeah.
Because they have been looking fly. So good.
Agreed.
Yep.
Okay, so there's that update. We also went and saw the Gran Turismo movie.
Oh, yeah.
I have a long list of updates, so here we're just moving along. Yeah, we went and saw the Gran Turismo movie this past weekend.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
I loved it.
I also loved it.
Yeah. And I was feeling like super sick that day, but I was hanging in there because I was like, I want to keep watching this. I don't want to go home.
Right. We were talking after the movie about like, I made a lot of comparisons to Ford v Ferrari. Really easy comparisons to make because they're both like driving motorsports movies. But yeah, one thing that really stood out about Gran Turismo was that it really felt like it was all about just the general love of motorsports, and like that's at the heart of the movie. You know, especially with this guy like being a quote unquote sim racer, learning how to drive from playing Gran Turismo and then becoming like an actual professional driver. Like just, yeah, the love of driving is at the heart of the movie. Whereas like Ford v Ferrari felt like it had, I guess, more of like a story of overcoming the odd. Well, I guess this movie kind of had some of that, a lot of that as well, actually. I mean, Ford v Ferrari just felt like it was more focused on like telling the story of, I guess, like a company and some of the people involved with like a piece of auto history. Whereas this was very much just like, hey, driving. Like this guy loved driving so much in this video game that he became a driver in real life. You can do it too. We can all be drivers. Driving's great.
I don't know about we can all be drivers, but
well,
he'd still had to go through training.
I know. But I mean, but after we watched it, like I booted up Forza and we both played a little bit of Forza because we were like, driving.
We were inspired.
We were.
And I placed dead last, and I was like, that is the end of my career.
And then I did the same race that you did, and I got second place.
Whatever.
Yeah. I got a podium.
Didn't need to flex on me.
Yeah, my bad. Anyway, Gran Turismo was great. Check it out if you can. I would honestly, like, I wouldn't. Before I saw the movie, I didn't think that I would be like, oh, yeah, go see it in a theater. Like, you know, it felt like we were just kind of going to go see it because we wanted to just see the movie, not necessarily that it felt like something that needed to be seen in a theater.
Yeah.
But after having watched it in a theater, I'm like, that really seems like it was the ideal experience given just like the cinematography and the cars and the sounds and all of that.
I feel like the marketing I feel like they didn't have very strong marketing for that movie.
I mean, it's all kind of PlayStation marketing.
Yeah. It felt very
Like if you booted up your PS5, you knew what the movie was.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is like the marketing didn't make it feel cinematic. So that's why, like, for me, it didn't feel like you said, like what you just said about, you know, before I didn't really think like, oh, it was a movie that you really needed to see in the theaters. And I agree. And I feel like that was just like because of the marketing, because the marketing just like didn't make it feel like a cinematic movie.
Right.
And so, but no, I agree that like I enjoyed seeing it at the theater. I mean, I still don't know if you need to spend the money. If you get to see it for like matinee, you know, or for a cheaper price, then sure.
Yeah. I'm not saying like go spend your Friday night seeing this movie. We went and saw it on like Saturday morning at like 11:45, and that was perfect.
Yeah. It was in like the tiniest theater.
Right.
Yeah. It was like 4 of us in there.
Right. But I loved it.
It
felt
too.
It felt like the perfect afternoon movie to go see.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Or like if you're just super bored one day.
Right.
Then it's like
go check that out.
Go check it out.
Yeah.
See what
it's good. About. Like it's legitimately good.
I didn't know that was the dude who was in Midsommar.
Oh.
Yeah. I saw that because I looked him up because I was like, oh, his face seems familiar.
The guy that they like cut open and he's like still alive. Sorry, trigger warning.
I closed my eyes on all the gross parts of that movie, so I don't remember. But I looked him up and I saw him on the IMDb page, and I saw the picture of him with like all of them.
That's crazy because Midsommar came out like 5 years ago or 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. And this guy feels like he got younger.
Doesn't he look so young?
Yeah.
He's like 28.
Oh, okay.
29.
All right.
Something like that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, go check out Gran Turismo. It's like a legitimately good movie. I just straight up enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Next catch-up item. Next update on my end.
This is going to be you said an hour and 30 minutes. Bull crap.
We'll see. Well, yeah, I mean, these final updates should be pretty quick. Just updating on my game playing. Last we checked in, I was only still playing this Chained Echoes game. Mm-hmm. I am still playing that game. I'm hoping it wraps up soon. I'm still enjoying it. The story's taken some really interesting and very dark turns, and I'm surprised to say that because like it's got really simple pixel art going on. Like overall, like it's paying homage to older RPG games. But I almost kind of feel like the complexity of the story is maybe being let down by kind of like the simple aesthetic, but at the same time, it's like pretty cool that something that looks so old has this like really intense kind of like going in different directions kind of story. Mm-hmm. So I guess like, you know, if I had to choose, I would take the more intense, crazy story than just like a bland one. But yeah, no, I'm really enjoying that game. But again, like I said, I'm kind of hoping it wraps up soon because I'm now hitting like the 30 plus hour mark. And I'm like, all right, I don't really like these days. I don't really like my games lasting much longer than that unless it's like Zelda. So, still working on that. I had a phone conversation last week. I had a phone conversation with the principal UX researcher at Santa Monica Studio. 'Cause my brother works over there and he connected us, and I'm a UX designer. So I was like, you know, I love video games. So it was a really cool conversation. And at the end of that conversation, I mean, we talked kind of just about like, you know, what's it like? Yeah, like I just kind of wanted to get a feel for what it's like working there and the kinds of like research tasks that one experiences in the gaming industry. But at the end of the phone call, he recommended the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences podcast, The Game Maker's Notebook, which is a podcast where different experts that work in the gaming industry will interview people who work at different studios. So like a game director from Insomniac Games will interview the game director of like another game. Or Austin Wintory, who is like the composer of Journey, he will interview like the composer or like the lead sound designer for like some studio. So it's really interesting, kind of like learning in the first, like listening to that and learning, keeping up with the industry. And the first episode that I listened to was Ted Price, the CEO of Insomniac Games, interviewed these two brothers who directed this game called Kena and the Bridge of Spirits, which is a game that came out on the PS5 around launch that looks like a Pixar movie or like a Disney animated movie. And I remember it really stood out when they were kind of announcing that PS5 launch lineup, but it was really interesting to listen to this podcast episode where they were talking about like the constraints and the limitations and hitting a deadline and like working with a small team and all of this stuff. And so having listened to that and having that like insight of what the experience was, it really kind of jazzed me up to go play this game. So I like the next day started playing Kena and the Bridge of Spirits. I played the whole thing. It was maybe like, I don't know, just under 10 hours, and I finished it over the weekend, and I enjoyed it. I don't think it was like the greatest game ever made, but it was just this really cool experience of like knowing, yeah, this isn't the greatest game ever made, but there are some elements that really stand out that are like above what other games are doing, especially like with their animation. And it's like I want to say it's like in-engine animation. I'm honestly not sure if it's in-engine or not, but it was just really interesting to then kind of like listen to that podcast episode, learn all of that, and then just play the game and kind of like see everything from the director's like perspective. And so yeah, I played that game. I mean, I would recommend it if somebody looks at it and says like, "Oh, that looks fun." I would totally recommend checking that out. But because I also kind of am now like in this headspace of like wanting to kind of play some quicker games and kind of like build up this like understanding of like what it might have took to make this game, I started playing Spider-Man Miles Morales, which came out also around PS5 launch time, which is kind of like a shorter Spider-Man game. And like those games, that series of like Spider-Man games for the PlayStation, they have like a new Spider-Man 2 coming out at the end of October. So I was like, oh, I never finished Miles Morales. I got to go back and play that. I know it's a quick game. So I've been playing that, and that I complained about Final Fantasy 16 for like, weeks and weeks and weeks on this podcast because I was really upset that, it was this really long game that just kind of had me bored most of the time, like really horrible pacing issues that I kind of like was in awe of like how bad the pacing issues were in that game. But now picking up this Miles Morales game that's like really short, every single bit of it feels extremely cinematic, and like it's like suddenly I can see when like what I'm seeing now versus when I first tried to play this game 3 years ago is like night and day. It's like I'm seeing all of like the craftsmanship that went into making this game experience, and realizing like, oh my God, like a team of incredibly talented people who are just like so on top of their time management made this, and in like 3 years, or no, not even in the span of 2 years. And that just like blows my mind. Anyway, so I'm playing Spider-Man Miles Morales. I just kind of wanted to get those thoughts out because they've just kind of been sitting inside of me. But so yeah, it's just like, it's been really great because it's reminding me what like a premium gaming experience is supposed to feel like on the PlayStation 5, because Final Fantasy 16 was not that. And so it's kind of like reinvigorated my passion for like, oh yeah, games on the PS5. They're not just like long filler like Final Fantasy. Like there's like an actual, cutting edge artistry there. So it made me really excited to play the new Spider-Man game that comes out next month. And just, yeah.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see if you can play as Venom because I want to eat people. So I can't wait for it to come out and hear your report.
That was, I think, the perfect response to my long tirade. So, fantastic. All right, those are all my updates. Thank you for listening. I know that was a long one.
No, it's all good.
Well, yeah. So I
You're
believe.
First.
Oh, I'm first. It's like every time I'm first, I ended up giving this long update, and I'm like, "Ooh, all right, ready for a break." Oh no, I got to talk for probably 30 minutes straight. More? All right, here we go. Dear listener, maybe press pause, take a break from listening to my voice, because you're about to hear a lot more of it. Fill the space. I need to take a drink of water because I got a long summary to get through on this movie.
I don't even know what to say. It's autumnal season coming up, approaching. We have our pumpkin candle burning. We're starting to get in those vibes. I have been watching, actually today I watched my top 3 favorite fall movies to watch. And those are
All today?
Well, I watched one just this past week. So technically not today, but my top 3 favorite fall movies to watch. Number 1, When Harry Met Sally.
You watched that today?
No.
You watched you watched that in the past week. Yeah, that's right. I was there.
Yes.
I was like, you watched that again?
Yes,
Okay.
I watched it in the past week. Number 2, 500 Days of Summer, which, I mean, I know her name is Summer, but, like, it gives off fall vibes. And at the end, homegirl's name is Autumn. And then my third favorite, all-time favorite fall movie, aside from When Harry Met Sally, Good Will Hunting.
Oh, you watched that today?
I did watch that today.
Nice.
I was hoping also that it would motivate me to write my dissertation. I only wrote like 2 paragraphs.
Well, that's solid because I feel like both of our movies today have kind of like fall-ish vibes.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least the movie that I assigned you that you were going to talk about in the back half is very, at least, academic.
Yeah.
Which Good Will Hunting is also very academic.
Yeah. I mean, the movie I assigned is also fall because it's football season.
Right. Mm-hmm. Your movie's like very fall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that movie, I'm ready to talk about it.
Awesome.
So I was assigned this week a movie called Radio, which came out in 2003. Radio stars Cuba Gooding Jr. and Ed Harris. Oh, I forgot. This is Ed Harris week.
Ed Harris week.
Ed Harris was
AKA
in
Ed Helms.
Right. Ed Harris is in both of our movies.
Yeah.
And they're both based on true stories and are fall-like.
Yeah. I kept calling him Ed Helms throughout throughout watching both of these movies.
I'm like, I gotta do like an orange thumbnail that's just like Ed Helms' face. Maybe
Ed Helms' face.
My bad.
This is why I keep saying it. Yeah. Because I keep tricking you, and then you say right. Ed Helms.
It's gonna be like Ed Harris's face, but I'm gonna sneak in like Ed Helms, like a cutout of Ed Helms' face, like in the corner or something.
No, put Ed Harris's face on Ed Helms' body.
Like in The Hangover or something.
Yeah, it's so funny.
All right, that I might do that. I'll give it a shot. Okay, so I was assigned Radio. It stars Ed Harris and Cuba Gooding Jr., as I mentioned. It follows the lives of a high school football coach and a young man with mental disabilities, and they live in a small town in South Carolina. So Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character spends his day walking around, collecting things that he likes, and he puts them in a shopping cart, and he just kind of walks around his small town community. Ed Harris plays Coach Jones, who's the football coach. One day, Coach Jones' players, who have been noticing Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character kind of walking around in the community, they decide they're going to harass him, tie him up, and just like make fun of him and scare the actual crap out of him.
Literally, I could have murdered them all.
Right. So Ed Harris catches wind of what's going on. He helps Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character out of the predicament and Ed Harris, aka Coach Jones, rather than letting Cuba Gooding Jr. go off on his own, he decides, like, I'm going to make this up to this young man. So I'm going to ask him to help out in my practices. I'm going to get to know him a little bit. And so he notices that this young man, Cuba Gooding Jr., loves the radio, so he nicknames him Radio. And now I can start calling him Radio because it's driving me nuts. Because it's such a simple name, and I'm like, Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character. Anyway.
It's a real man.
I know.
Based on a real man.
It is based on a real man. But he gets this nickname in the movie, at least, of Radio because he likes radios and he likes to collect radios. So as time goes on, these two men start to develop a connection. Radio has been virtually mute up to this point, and he kind of starts to open up and starts to talk to Coach Jones. And Coach Jones even drives Radio home and meets his mother. And his mother's very apprehensive about Coach Jones at first because, Radio doesn't really fit in. And she comes to realize, like, oh no, like Coach Jones is a very caring man. And he's got Radio's best interest at heart. So Radio starts helping out at football games, but eventually the football season ends. And Coach Jones worries that Radio's no longer going to have this outlet that provides him connection and is ultimately good for him. So Coach Jones asks his assistant coach, who coaches the basketball team, if he can have Radio help out on the basketball team for basketball season, to which he's like, sure, yeah, I'll see him on Monday. So from there, like, things are looking up for Radio. He ends up getting involved with the day-to-day activities at the school. The principal's a little worried about it at first, but she ultimately just wants what's best for Radio, and she's kind of worried about her job, which is understandable. Mm-hmm. But, like, it's fine. But then the school board tries to intervene at certain points, worrying that having Radio around could be bad for the students. But Coach Jones tells the school board to shove it, and Radio is here to stay because everybody loves him. Well, guess what? There's some punk kid named Johnny who's on the football. Johnny. He's on the football team and the basketball team, and he and his friends were the ones that were responsible for tying up Radio at the beginning of the movie. So Johnny has not yet shrugged off his punk kid ways. So he and his buddies tell Radio that one of the female teachers needs him to get something from the girls' locker room, and Radio, being the kind heart that he is, does it, not wanting to disappoint one of the teachers, even though he is a little apprehensive about it at first. So he goes into the girls' locker room while the girls are in there, and he gets in trouble. And so, yeah, it looks really bad. But then it ends up being okay. Because Ed Harris used his white savior powers to absolve the situation. Now, there's another unrelated incident where the whole town buys Radio a bunch of gifts for Christmas, and Radio decides on Christmas Day that he's going to put his gifts in his cart and give them out to people for free. But a rookie cop notices him and thinks it's suspicious that this man has a bunch of nice stuff in his shopping cart. So the rookie cop harasses Radio and then locks him in jail. And as a viewer, you're like, oh no, this is it for Radio. Well, no. The other cops see that the rookie brought in Radio, and they're like, dang it, idiot rookie cop. So the rookie cop ends up having to help Radio give out presents to people, which is really cute. I like that detail quite a bit. Yeah. So all this to say, like, at multiple junctures, you think Radio is going to end up getting hurt in some kind of way, but it doesn't really happen. But then Radio's mom has a heart attack and she dies. And that was a very soul-crushing part of the movie, because at that point in the movie, he wouldn't talk to anyone, and Coach Harris, Coach Jones, Coach Helms, Coach Jones needs to console him, and it's sad to see Radio sad. And the film's composer is working overtime to pull every tear out of your face with that musical score. It's upsetting. So In the end, Radio gets support from his community and Coach Jones especially. But wait, remember punk kid Johnny? Well, his dad, Frank, decides to take issue with Radio, even though Johnny is finally done with his punk kid ways. So punk dad, Frank, tries to turn the town against Radio. But Coach Jones, our white savior, is not having it. He said, sorry. You're like cracking up. He's not having it. And he says, you know what? I'm done with this mess. I'm going to quit being a coach and focus on my family because I've actually been ignoring my wife and daughter this whole time. And I, as a viewer, recounting this movie, ignored his wife and daughter this whole time. Because they're just... Him ignoring his wife and daughter resulted in, the viewer not paying much attention to them. Anyway. So, yeah, he's like, I've been ignoring my wife and daughter this whole time, so I'm going to quit being a coach, and I'm going to focus on my family. And this town is, like, obsessed with high school sports. And so this one bystander hears this news, and he turns to Frank, and he goes, look what you did, Frank. Is this what you wanted, Frank? Thanks, Frank.
Is so upset.
It's so hilarious. It doesn't fit the rest of the movie at all. Like, they're not trying to be funny, but it is hilarious.
But you could just imagine somebody really being that upset and be like, look what you did, Frank.
Look what you did, Frank.
God, you're ruining for everybody, Frank.
Anyway, everybody's like, okay, yeah, we're not going to get rid of Radio. Radio's great. We love Radio. Screw Frank. So everything ends up fine. The movie then cuts to the real world, present day, and it tells you that, this was all based on a true story, and Radio still helps out at the school. He helps out at the school, he helps out at the sports games, and the community loves him. And if you're ever, in Anderson, South Carolina, you might see Radio during Friday Night Lights. And also, I guess at some point, Coach Jones gets some kind of like Best Coach of the Century award or something like that. Mm-hmm. And that happened in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's basically the whole movie.
Yeah. What do you think?
I thought it was a very delightful movie. And it was, I thought it was great. As much fun as I had kind of like, I don't know, making fun of some of the storytelling tropes that the movie decided to use. Mm-hmm. It is a very heartwarming movie. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed it. The musical score really was good. And Cuba Gooding Jr. is acting his freaking butt off in this role. He was so believable. I can't believe that he did Snow Dogs like a year prior. He did Snow Dogs and Rat Race.
Snow Dogs is phenomenal. Okay. Do not crap on it.
He did Snow Dogs and Rat Race like 2 years prior, and then now he's like back at it again with being a good actor. And he killed it. No, it was great, and you just kind of like you really connected with the character, and I mean, really, like that scene where you find out that his mother died and that he's like upset. Mm-hmm. That was like, oh man, I'm messed up. I need a second,
Yeah, it was so interesting to watch you watch this movie because I've seen this movie a gazillion times. This might be the most watched movie. This might be like my most watched movie.
Really?
Oh my gosh, me and my mom have seen this movie a million times. So I've seen this movie so many times, but to watch it with somebody who's never seen it before and to watch you and the emotional roller coaster you went on and like at one point you're like sitting, like you move from like sitting back on the bed to like sitting right in front of the TV. I was. Like every time something happened you're like, oh no, oh Radio, oh no, and then you're like, oh no, it's okay, it worked out.
That's what I'm saying though. Like the movie, it almost feels kind of cheap. Like you can't do that. You can't keep putting these things in front of me and thinking like, oh no, it's not gonna work out for Radio, this is it, like this is the big one, and then it like pulls the rug out from under you and is like, It's fine. Radio's fine. Like the school board, whatever.
But
The school board is barely a threat.
Don't you think? Oh, sorry, my alarm's going off. Don't you think though that made his mom's death even that more impactful? Because like you gotten so used to the kind of like the boy who cried wolf type of thing of like, oh, you know, you think this is when he's like something's gonna happen to him, and then oh, he's fine, and then you're like, all right, like he's the community at this point, they know him, he's gonna be fine, and then like out of nowhere, it's like, oh my gosh, his mom just died, and then like it makes it more impactful.
It does make it more impactful, especially when it's like, yeah, if the school board kicked him out of the school and he didn't get to come back to the school, like that sucks, but he could still be like a part of the community in some way, right? Yeah. Or like, you know, he got arrested at one point, but like, you know, say he gets arrested, he still has his life, right? Yeah. But then like his mom dying, that's like that's real, like that's worst case scenario. Yeah.
And also I feel like those like that moment, like especially like, you know, him getting arrested, right? And then the two officers are like, oh, that's Radio, like get him out of there, like we're taking care of him, type of thing. Like you needed that moment to show the community at large has his back, so that when his mom dies, you know that like there are people there for him, like he's not on his own, like and it's not just, you know, Ed Harris who's the only person there for him, it's like the whole community is there for him. So I feel like they have those moments to really build that up and to like show you that. But then you also, you know, you have your people who are, you know, still skeptical or whatever, but
Frank,
God, Frank, you suck.
Okay, so that all makes you make a lot of really good points about like the emotional weight of his mother dying. Yeah. And that speaks to this larger point that I wanted to bring up, about how all of this is happening in like the first year of Coach Jones, like meeting Radio. And for that to happen, as you put it, writing wise is really good, but this is based on a true story. So that kind of, when I watched the movie, like when I was done, I was reflecting and was like, did his mom really die the first year of knowing Coach Jones?
I have no clue.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
I'm sorry.
Maybe I should have asked you that beforehand.
Yeah, I honestly didn't look too deep into the actual story of James. So James is James
Radio's name.
Yeah, that's Radio. And there wasn't on IMDb trivia any facts about anything aside from.
Gotta go deeper than IMDb trivia.
I know. Honestly, today I was kind of slacking. I was a bit tired today. But so I really didn't go deeper into, aside from the fact that he has passed away.
Okay, that was my next question.
Yeah, he passed away in 2019. So he's no longer with us. But yeah, no, that's a good question. I don't know.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Jeez.
Dang, I know, I really didn't. I did not come prepared for this one.
You dropped the ball.
I did. I looked up something completely random as a fact.
All right, well, hit me with your facts, and I'm going to try and find my own answer to this.
Okay, I have no facts. So I wanted, because we had a conversation about, well, first, before I get into my facts. So you mentioned the white savior aspect of this movie.
Yes, it's very prevalent.
It is very prevalent. And so I said, so this movie is a weird one for me.
Yeah, it's like The Blind Side, but like made 6 years earlier.
But you know, so here's why it's weird for me. It's like, you know, you say it's like The Blind Side. The Blind Side gives off weird vibes for me. Right. But I don't get those same weird vibes for this one. Like, this is a movie that I sit and I enjoy, even despite like the white saviorness, which I hate to say that, but like despite the white saviorness, I do really enjoy this movie. The Blind Side, I don't choose to sit and watch The Blind Side because it's like, it's too white saviory for me. And I have been trying to sit and think about why, like, what's the difference between the two. I didn't really come up with a reason why. I don't know why. I don't know why the vibes feel different. I would be very interested to hear other people's thoughts on if they feel the same about the two movies, if they've seen them both. But
it feels like a very easy comparison to make.
Yeah.
You know? I will say The Blind Side feels much more like let's turn this kid into one of us.
Yeah, it feels more transactional. I think that's
Yeah.
what it is. I think The Blind Side for me, which I mean, I don't like, I don't, and I don't know the true dynamics, because these are, again, this is all based on true stories.
Yeah,
So I don't know the real
on true
dynamics.
stories, yeah.
I don't know the true dynamics, but like The Blind Side, in the way that it was at least portrayed in the movie, was like, we can make this kid a star type of, like, that's just how it felt. I mean, and like I said, that might not have been at all their intention.
Right.
But especially when you're dealing with like college football, like, that's just what it felt, transactional, disguised as good-hearted.
Yeah, I mean, the movie does make the whole point about, like, you know, the investigator pointing out to him in The Blind Side that, like, you know, maybe this was supposed to be transactional.
Yeah.
I mean, they do go there and address it.
Still.
And, you know, through the power of love, show that it's not about that.
I don't know.
But, like, when you compare, it does kind of have this, like, let's, you know, oh, we're so great, we're taking him off the streets, and we're giving him an opportunity, and, like, it goes full white savior.
Yeah.
Whereas Radio is much more like,
it's just embedding him in the community.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
we're not.
They're not trying to turn him into a celebrity or anything. I mean, he kind of becomes like a local celebrity, but the point isn't to turn him into a celebrity. The point is to help him and, like, show him that he has support and people that love him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas The Blind Side is like that, and, you know, help him make a bunch of money as a football star.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird, but
well,
yeah.
I found the Wikipedia page. Yeah, went the extra step beyond IMDb trivia and went to Wikipedia, the next best source of information on the internet. And did not find anything that if anything, the movie is the best source of information.
There we go. All right. So the one thing that I did look up that was, like, not really anything, we had a conversation about biopics, and because we saw Men of Honor, which also is a biopic featuring Cuba Gooding Jr. And we were like, man, Cuba Gooding Jr. has done a decent amount of biopics. And I was like, I wonder who's done more, him or Chadwick Boseman.
Right.
And so I looked it up. They both have done 3 biopics each.
I mean, that's a lot of biopics for one person to do.
It is. Technically, I would give it to Chadwick Boseman just because Cuba Gooding Jr.'s 3rd biopic. If you don't, because he was in like that one TV show that was about O.J. Simpson.
Oh, American Crime Story?
Yeah. I didn't count that as a biopic.
Well, it's based on a true story. It's a
like
biopic.
a
But it's a show, but it's still kind of.
I didn't count it in this. And also, one of the movies that's listed on here, it's a TV movie, so it came out on TNT. It wasn't like a theater.
Snow Dogs?
No.
You mean to tell me Snow Dogs wasn't a biopic?
Honestly, I looked at it because I was like, was that based on a true story?
What? Oh my god. Snow Dogs was, like, advertised as one movie and was just something else.
I remember nothing about Snow Dogs, but I remember enjoying it when I saw it.
I thought it was gonna be like Shrek.
Shrek?
Yeah, like the ads that they would show for Snow Dogs felt like I was gonna go see something that was as entertaining as Shrek, because we got these dogs. They've all got their different names. Maybe you could sell some stuffed animals to these dogs. And it just ended up being much more of a movie than that, you know?
Oh my gosh. That's so funny. I like Snow Dogs.
That's nice.
I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
If you were to have someone play you in a biopic about your life.
I feel like we've done this before, but...
On the podcast?
Yeah, I feel like we've done this before on the podcast.
Oh.
When we did a biopic.
Really?
Maybe not. I don't know. Well, we're doing it now anyway.
I don't remember.
I would say... I mean, Tom Holland would be cool. It's an easy pick. But, like, I wouldn't mind if Tom Holland played me in a movie. Mm-hmm. I think he'd do a good job. Hopefully. I don't know.
Yeah.
Topher Grace. He's too old. This is the thing. I don't know any...
He could be old you.
Old me? I don't know what old me is all about. Hopefully, old me is like
when
now
I
me.
first met you... This is for the viewer. You know this, but this is for the listeners. When I first met you, I was like, oh my gosh, you're like the dude off that 70s show.
Yeah, everybody said that.
I was like, you're Eric Foreman.
Everybody that met me in my entire lifetime thought I was Eric Foreman.
But it's so funny because that's exactly what you said. You were like, literally everyone has told me that. And I was like, I'm glad I'm not the only one who thinks that.
Yeah, I had people tell me that in high school. My 10th grade chemistry teacher one day was like, you know who you remind me of? And I was like, is it Eric Foreman from that 70s show? And he was like, yeah! And he called me Eric for the rest of the year, which I happily accepted. I thought it was great.
Oh my gosh, who doesn't love Eric? Like, Eric is the best. It's because, like, you have the same mannerisms and, like, the same kind of, like, humor that he does on the show. And it's just, like, your voice is kind of the same. It's just, yeah.
When I was in high school on Facebook, we did like a celebrity doppelgangers trend at one point. Everybody was making their profile picture their celebrity doppelganger, and I did Eric Foreman.
Yeah. See, I don't think you look like him. I just think you
act like him. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, this isn't news to me. Maybe you just blew the listener's mind.
Yeah,
certainly not mine.
I wanted to share it with the listeners. Yeah, in case they were like, I can't pinpoint it.
All right. Well, who would you want to play you in a biopic?
Ooh, okay. So I thought about this in depth. Not really, but kind of.
I'm like, why are you pretending to think right now? You already thought about this in depth.
Alone. So, okay, this is so specific, but they're the little girl who plays the daughter on The Handmaid's Tale of the main character. I don't know her name in real life, and I'm so
that is
sorry.
So specific. I have no idea.
Okay, I say that. The only reason I say this, and I know that's so specific, and I don't know this little girl's name. I say this because
she's a little girl, and you want her to play you.
Okay, I'm saying, like, okay, if this is a biopic about my life, someone's got to play my younger self, somebody's got to play my middle-aged self, and someone's got to play my older self.
Okay, she's going to play your younger self.
She's going to play my younger self.
She's not going to play all three roles.
No.
Okay.
She's going to play my younger self.
Okay.
I'm getting there. She's going to play my younger self. But I say this because when that show came out and her character was introduced, I was like, oh my gosh, that is me. Like, I'm on TV.
Oh.
It was the freakiest thing. I have not, like, you know how they say everyone in life has a twin?
Right.
That was the scariest moment of my life because that little girl looked like me as a little girl.
All right. Do you know the character's name?
No, just look up Handmaid's Tale daughter.
Oh, okay. 1 second. Isn't the whole point that they all have daughters?
No.
No? My
that
bad.
is not what that show is about.
My bad. Or they might have daughters. Okay, my bad. I've never seen the show.
What? Did you find it?
Oh, okay, yeah, I found her.
Oh, she's probably like older now, but like look at her in the first.
On the left?
Okay, she's older now, but look at her when she was.
Okay.
There's a picture of them at the aquarium.
All right,
and she looks just like me when I was a child. So that's where I would get to play my younger self.
Okay. All right. I buy it.
Yep. My 20-year-old self. I mean, if we're casting like right now,
that looks exactly like you.
Does that look? It looks exactly like me.
That specific picture. That specific picture looks actually exactly.
have a baby photo, like a little kid photo. That is me.
Okay,
isn't that really creepy?
That is kind of wild. Yeah.
Yes, and a friend of mine sent that to me and was like, "This is you."
Yeah, because her grown up does not really look
right.
Like
she doesn't look like she kind of like she kind of looks different.
But the specific aquarium photo is. Yeah, no, like that's exactly. I've seen your baby pictures. That's exactly what you look like.
Yeah,
that's well. Okay, wow, that's wild.
So she would play my younger self.
Okay, yeah, right.
Yeah, my middle-aged self. This is a hard one because I don't think any celebrity really looks like me.
Oh wow.
You think there's a celebrity that looks like? No. Yeah, I was like, I don't think there's a.
It's just the way they said it. I was like, no celebrity looks like me.
No, I don't mean it like no one looks like me.
I mean, there is that one girl who was on one season of The Bachelor, but she,
Yeah.
If she ever got into acting.
Fun fact: I went on vacation and a woman came up to me and was like, "I'm so sorry to bother you. Were you on The Bachelor?" I was like, "No, ma'am. That was not me. But I know who you're talking about. It was not me."
Yeah, I mean, when you told me that the first time, that did not surprise me because when I saw that girl, I was like, "That looks a lot."
I only knew of her because you sent it to me and was like, "This looks like you."
Yeah.
And my whole family, because they were all just sitting there, they were like, "What? Like, who is this girl?"
Yeah.
Yeah, if she got into acting, she could play me. Yeah, I don't know. There's just no one. I don't know. I feel like there's no one that looks like me. Like, I could say like Zendaya, but that's just like, no, she doesn't look like me.
That's like saying Zendaya could play any young black woman.
Yeah. So I don't know. And I don't know who would play my older self either.
Okay, I was gonna ask. Yeah. No, you have no idea.
No.
Okay.
Zoe Saldana. I don't know.
What? Okay.
I don't know.
Sure.
I know that's far-fetched.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, do you have any other questions?
No, that was
pertaining to any other facts about radio? You don't have facts.
I had nothing. I told you.
What, you got like box office, critical reception, anything like that?
I could look it up.
Oh my gosh.
No.
Because I saw the critical reception on Google.
What does that mean?
The
critical reception.
Like the audience score. Yeah, like what the critics thought. Yeah.
I don't care what the critics thought.
Okay.
They're always wrong.
Because it's got like a 35% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, but it got 6.9 out of 10 on IMDb.
Right. But the fact that we watched it and we enjoyed it and found out later that on Rotten Tomatoes it's got like a 35%, I want to know what the critics cited for why it's a 35%.
They don't know.
I want to know what the criticism.
The budget.
All right.
Was $35 million.
It's appropriate.
Gross worldwide, it made $53 million.
Oh wow. Okay. How much? What was the budget again?
$35 million.
Okay, so it just barely made its money back.
Yep.
All right. What is the why? For what reason did the critics not like the movie?
Oh my gosh, I don't know.
Okay, I will look it up really quick. Radio 2003. We're going to the Metacritic. What could have been an all-occasion Hallmark card turns out to be an emotionally genuine love letter to a young man who transformed the town of Anderson, South Carolina in the 1970s. That was written by Lawrence Topman of the Charlotte Observer. All right, he gave it a 7.5 out of 10. Let's go down.
Sounds like the critics loved it.
All right, we've got... here we go. The Robert Kohler from Variety gave it a 4 out of 10. Inspired by a true story, it may be, but inspired, it's not.
What?
Ooh. All right. LA Weekly, Scott Foundis said, Harris tries his best to make something more out of his one-dimensional white knight character, while Gooding plays his vaudeville Rain Man routine to the rafters. Goodness.
Dang.
Yeah.
He went in.
He did go in. But, I mean, he called out the one-dimensional white knight character.
Yeah, that's fair.
I said that.
That is fair.
Keith Phipps of the AV Club says, anyone who already knows better than to taunt the disabled or former Oscar winners should probably give it a pass. Dang. So are they kind of saying, like, Cuba Gooding Jr.'s
tastefully.
performance is like, in bad taste and is a little Oscar baity. I can kind of see that.
I can get that. I get that.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah. Well,
You know,
and you couple that with the whole white savior thing.
That's what I say. I feel like, honestly, both of our movies, they have their major flaws for both of them.
I don't know what you're talking about. My movie's not flawed at all.
You know, when it comes to mental health, when it comes to disabilities,
you're right.
Comes to portrayals of both, you know, both of our movies are flawed. I will not deny that.
No, 100%. I got a serious note. Well, not serious, but I've got like a note to echo that statement for my movie later.
Yeah, both are flawed, and we definitely acknowledge that. And I mean, the movies were still enjoyable, unfortunately. I know, like, unfortunately, we still enjoy watching movies. They still entertained.
All right, well, let's transition then. Let's talk about the movie that I assigned you.
Yeah, sounds good. It's getting late. All right, let me pull up my notes here. I didn't write down the year, so I was assigned A Beautiful Mind, which came out in 2001. So this is a story about a man named John Nash. This is also based on a true story. So John Nash is a real person. And he's an eccentric mathematician. And he's dedicated to developing this like a groundbreaking theory that will basically change the field. And he's like trying to figure out what that theory will be. And he's like on the precipice of it during his graduate studies. So by the end of his graduate studies, he successfully manages to create a theory that is groundbreaking. And he does so with the help of with the support of his roommate, Charles. And so because he's able to create this like groundbreaking theory, he's offered a position at MIT, which, if anyone doesn't know, is pretty prestigious. So Nash...
He's offered a position at MIT?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was at Princeton.
Was it Princeton? No, it's MIT.
He got his PhD at Princeton, but then he worked at MIT?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. Okay. Continue.
Yeah. So alongside his appointment at MIT, Nash is also invited to go to the Pentagon to help decode like enemy communication. And he does so in like 5 minutes. He just kind of stares.
That is true. He does. Yeah, he stares at the wall and just goes like.
He's like beep boop beep boop beep boop. Figured it out.
He like computes it.
Yeah.
That scene is kind of wild. It's like Batman just showed up and is like, well, clearly.
Like, I think I was thinking back. I was reflecting on this movie. And I was like, this movie was kind of insane in the way everything was portrayed. And like, that's kind of my one critique of it. Is like, it was absolutely absurd. But we'll get into that a little bit later.
But it's a movie.
But still, reflecting back on it, I was like, what was that? To be based on a true story, you know? Yeah. So he does so in like 5 minutes. And they're like, woohoo, you helped us save the world. And he's like, thank you. So he returns back to MIT. But he's kind of like, he's like itching for another like assignment like that. Like he's like, he kind of wants to, you can tell he kind of wants to like do something like that again. And so he's just doing his regular schmegular work at MIT. But he gets approached by a man named William Parcher, who claims to be part of the Department of Defense.
Ed Harris.
Who is Ed Harris?
Yeah, I thought for a second in my head, I thought you were going to say he gets approached by a man named Ed Harris.
No. William Parcher, played by Ed Harris. And he claims to be Department of Defense. And he has this like important mission for John to help him with. And so basically what he wants him to do is like look for these hidden messages in like newspapers, magazines, etc. That are basically like, again, enemy communications. It's like the way that, our U.S. enemies are like communicating where the location of like a nuclear bomb or something like that.
Yeah.
And so John Nash...
It's based on a true story.
Yeah. So John Nash is like, I will take on this mission. So he begins to basically devote 24/7 to, decoding these magazines and newspapers. And anytime he like kind of finds information or feels like he solved something, he puts it all in like a package and delivers it to this house and puts it in a mailbox for William Parcher to pick up. So he's been doing this for a little bit of time. Meanwhile, as this is all kind of happening, he's also dating. And so he begins dating one of his students, which like unethical. I had issues with that. But I mean, I guess it's the time. Like he was like the 40s. What time is it?
It was probably the 50s at 50s. This point.
Yeah.
There's only a 4-year difference between them.
It's power dynamics.
Oh, fair enough.
I don't like it.
Fair enough.
So he starts dating one of his students, and they eventually get married, and she becomes pregnant. And so the work continues that he's doing for William Parcher, but he's starting to get more and more paranoid that he's like people have caught on to him.
I mean, not even just like paranoid, but like
he's seeing people,
like he's seeing people like look at him and stuff, and like when he goes to like drop the package one night, Ed Harris picks him up and they literally get into like a shootout with like supposedly Russians that are you know, trying to take them out. So not just paranoid, but like you know, it's like reason to be paranoid from his perspective.
Yeah. So he's freaking out and he's like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I got a wife. My wife is pregnant now. Like I didn't sign up for this mess. Get me out of it. I'm scared. I'm like looking over my shoulder 24/7. William Parcher's like, just finish the job, like keep doing it. Like we are all relying on you to save the world. Everyone will die. You just like have to sacrifice basically. I told you not to marry that woman, but you did it anyway. You got to take one for the team, man.
Based on a true story.
Yes. So basically because John is really worried and really scared, he's kind of acting a little bit more erratic, and he's like really jumpy. He has this guest lecture and a group of men come in and he freaks out and runs like in the middle of his lecture, just books it running, runs out into like a courtyard. Is like,
this is the guest lecture at Harvard.
Yeah.
Where he was going to go visit his old roommate, Charles.
Yeah. He's like screaming. He's like, it's the Russians. They're here. They've got me. Like he's freaking out. And this man comes up to him and, a group of guys grab him and this man sedates him. This man happens to be a psychiatrist. John thinks it is one of the Russians. John wakes up at a hospital. The psychiatrist is like, I'm a psychiatrist. We have brought you here. You keep saying we're Russians. We're a little confused. Why you keep saying that? John sees Charles in the room and is like, oh no, Charles, you're one of them. Like you're behind this too. You're like one of the, like you're with the Russians. And psychiatrist is like, who are you talking to?
Yeah.
Where are you looking at? What are you looking at? What are you doing? What? And so this is where we learn that our friend John has been diagnosed with schizophrenia, which is not fun. And so, so this is where you start to go, oh no, who have we seen in the movie that is real and who is not? Because clearly Charles is not real. And we thought Charles was real this whole time. Charles has a niece who he is taking care of. We find out that the niece is not real. The niece is fake because Charles is not real. Like, you're like, whoa, what's going on? And so then this is also like the wife now is learning kind of like what John was up to, because the psychiatrist is like, we need your help to figure out like what has he been doing? Like we need to know kind of like how this like came upon itself. Like what has he been up to? Like where did this behavior all start? And that's when she learns so he had like research partners that he went to school with that he brought along with him when he got the job at MIT. And they all the two research partners he had and the wife kind of piece together what he's been doing, and they go into his office and he just has things covering the walls.
Yeah,
newspaper cutouts, magazine cutouts, like
red strings connecting dots to different places, like the Pepe Sylvia meme of Charlie from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah. It's everywhere. They go to, so I guess his friends / research partners had been following him to the house, which is who John saw the night that he got kind of freaked out. They had been following him, and they found all the mail that he had been putting in the mailbox, which none of it was opened because there is no William. William is fake.
Wait, William Parcher?
Ed
Harris
fake.
is fake in this movie.
Or he's a delusion.
Yes.
And so, so John has just been like doing this mission that's not a real mission. And so
it's like the curse of, it's like he has a beautiful mind.
Yeah.
Because it's like the curse of him having all of this mathematical knowledge and the ability to like decode things, but then also schizophrenia to where it's like he's seeing patterns that don't even exist.
Yeah. So really the rest of the movie is spent with John kind of grappling with, he's put on a medication that kind of prevents him from doing the work that he loves because it kind of like sedates his like mind in a sense that like he can't like see the codes that he like decode things like he used to be able to, or like see patterns and things that he used to be able to, because it's kind of like preventing him from that. And he kind of falls into like a depression because of this. And he's just like, I'm basically nothing without, doing the work that I love. I miss doing that stuff. And because he's in this, depressive state, his wife is really unhappy, and she's like, I don't even want to be in this relationship anymore, but like, I feel like I need to be because like, who's going to take care of him type of thing. Which like, her character is kind of interesting. I don't know how I feel about her, but
based on a true story.
I know, which I like. I totally understand her. I get her. I get everything she was saying. But I also was like, well, dang, girl, like, can't you have a little more sympathy? Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But I mean, I get it, but like, I know it's hard for you too. But but yeah. So he's trying to grapple with that, and at some point he decides, you know what, I'm not taking this medication. I don't want to take this medication. I want to get back to how I was feeling before. So he stops taking the medication, and because he stops taking it, the delusions and the paranoia start to ramp up again, and it results in him, putting both himself and his family in harm's way, not intentionally, but on accident. He's not trying to cause harm, but because he's having these delusions, he leaves his baby unattended in the bathtub.
Oh yeah, he's like,
he thinks Charles is watching the baby. He accidentally knocks over his wife, who's holding the baby, because he's trying to protect her from William, but we know William is not real. So
yeah.
He's just, so it's causing an issue. And so what ends up happening is basically, he talks to his wife and is like, I can't live just like being sedated on this medication. I don't want to be hospitalized. I don't want to be just like sitting away in a room. Please, if you, are willing to support me, I want to try and like use my brain to like work through it without medication.
Yeah.
And that's what he basically does. And he just like ignores the delusions, which I have so many questions about. Like, I'm just so confused on how this all actually worked.
Yeah. The first time I saw this movie was in a psychology class in the 10th grade. And I remember my teacher explained that one of the faults of the movie is that it portrays it like he just figured it
Like,
out.
yeah, it's like with his own willpower,
Right.
he was able to, completely, not let the delusions,
right.
impact his behavior. And I'm like, is it that, like, it's not that simple.
Right.
There's no way.
But at the same time, when I was reading up on facts from this movie and facts on like the real life John Nash,
Yeah.
it did say that by the time, because he ends up getting the Nobel Prize by the end of the movie, and it did say that by the time he got the Nobel Prize, he was no longer on medication, and he was like straight up just like doing just true no medication, just like true willpower, like I guess had like taught himself that like his delusions weren't real.
But how do you decipher?
Probably years of therapy and having been on medications, like I would assume that at a certain point he just kind of got really good at not I don't know how schizophrenia
I was just
works,
say,
like what the experience of having schizophrenia is like, but what I can say is that one of the part of what makes this confusing is that in the movie his hallucinations are both auditory and visual.
Yeah.
And in real life, John Nash's hallucinations were only auditory. The visual hallucinations were added in to make the movie more cinematic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the way it's portrayed in the movie is very much like, who's real? Who can you trust? Who's?
I'm like, if that's how it works, every person I met, I'd be like, "Are you real?
Right?
Do you exist?"
He does do that when he meets the guy
Yeah.
that gives him the Nobel Prize. He has to ask one of his students, like,
do you see him? Yeah. Like, yeah, it's just.
Yeah. So in real life,
yeah,
it wasn't really like that.
Yeah, schizophrenia is so wild to me, and like I don't know. I feel like I'm just like not well educated on it. I have a master's degree in clinical psychology. I should be more educated on it. I am just like not well educated on it in depth enough. People specialize in these sorts of things. I do not have that like specialization in schizophrenia, and it. You really need to be specialized in it.
Right. And it's not a very common diagnosis.
It's not. But like, it is like, it's a fear, like it's like a genuine fear of mine. Cause like I get, and I'm sure there's like not a correlation between migraines and schizophrenia. Like there's so many things that would be related to schizophrenia. I'm pretty sure migraines is not one of them. But for me, like brain things really freak me out a lot. I'm a person who gets migraines. I'm a person who takes a lot of different medications for those migraines. And I've been on different, like all kinds of medications. I've been on seizure medications. I've been on antidepressants for migraines. I've been on all kinds of stuff. And like one of my fears, especially being on like a new medication that's, targeting something in my brain, is like, what if I experience some weird, I don't want to say weird, but like some, side effect that's new to me. Or like, if I experience some sort of aura or something like that, that's just like I'm not used to. And like something like like some sort of auditory hallucination or like visual hallucination is so scary to me.
Well, it does require a certain amount of predisposition to that particular disorder. And I think once you hit a certain age, if you have not developed that disorder, then you're pretty much good.
Yeah. I'd always just like, it's like, I know that, of course I know that, but you never just like,
Right.
Like I always just like, especially like the medication I'm on now is a seizure medication. You know how like sometimes, you ever like sit in a room or something, and I'm in no way like comparing this to schizophrenia by no means. By no means.
Where is this about to go?
No, by no means. Are you ever like sitting and like out of the corner of your eye, you feel like you saw something, like you see something.
Yeah, all the time.
Right. And so like I'm like on this like new,
especially wearing glasses.
Yeah. So like I'm on this like new seizure medication, and I like that's been like happening to me or whatever. And I'm like, oh my gosh, is that like related to the seizure medication? Like, is it doing something to my brain? You know? And it's just like I just like get in a panic, and I'm like, oh my gosh, should I stop taking this medication? Like, what if it's like a side effect or something?
I think you're just paranoid. Not paranoid schizophrenic.
I mean, obviously not. Obviously not. And I'm not trying to make light of it. Like, it's a very serious thing that's, you know, it has its whole criteria and everything. So, but no, this movie, I thought this movie was so interesting in its portrayal of it. And it left me with so many questions about like just how things happen in real life, how schizophrenia even works, how delusions like or hallucinations or like just like psychosis in general works.
Right.
Yeah, how you decipher what's reality and what isn't. Especially like for someone like him who has now lived with this for such a long time, which like maybe it gets easier, but maybe it gets harder to decipher what's reality and what isn't. I don't know. But also, so here's my flaw with this movie. An additional flaw. The part about him winning the Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah.
So it felt so random. Okay, so like I said earlier when I was describing the movie, reflecting back on this movie, the way that the movie actually plays out is kind of absurd. Like it's a wild ride.
Yeah,
like, it's super wild. It like does it. It
starts out as this like mathematician, and then it turns into a psychology movie.
Like you would not have thought this was based on a true story, because like so, I actually guessed that he would be diagnosed with schizophrenia, that these were delusions, because I was like, this would not happen.
This is getting crazy, right?
Yeah, I was like, this is insane. This is not real life. This is not how things work in real life. Like there's no way that these kinds of things would happen.
Right.
And so then I was like, he has to be like imagining this. And then like 5 minutes later, it was like, he has schizophrenia. I was like, got it.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it. And so, yeah, it's like the whole movie is this like wild ride, this spectacle, this like chaotic like amalgamation of like just action, like a literal action movie. Mm-hmm. And then at the very end, it's like, oh yeah, remember that research he did? He won a Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I forgot he was even a scholar. I forgot we were even here to talk about this man as a scholarly man. I forgot that he developed this. I don't even know what the theory was about, because they really don't do a great job of explaining what his research even was.
His research, he basically invented like game theory. Do you know game theory?
I don't.
It's basically like a major economic theory that like just all the tenets of economics were transformed from his theories.
Yeah.
And we still use a lot of that stuff today.
Yeah.
To inform economic policy.
I feel like the movie just really downplayed that.
Yeah, no,
like,
it did. But like, you know, the first 30, 40 minutes are focused on like, he's got to have this big breakthrough. And it doesn't really tell you it doesn't explain the breakthrough that much. It just kind of says like he did it, you know?
Yeah, I think that's what I have an issue with, is like, you know, this movie doesn't feel like it's about a man who accomplished a really great like academic thing who also happened to have schizophrenia.
Yeah,
it feels like
schizophrenia first, academic accomplishments second.
But it's like the academic part is just not even there for me. Like it's like it feels like this is just like an interesting case study on a person with schizophrenia who isn't taking their medication, and like what does that look like? Like that feels like the only part, and it's like
right.
Oh,
but it doesn't become that until the second hour of the movie.
But like because the first, you know, half hour or whatever, there is no explanation, because like there's no true explanation of what he's doing academic wise. All you see is that he's really intense about his, like, too intense about his work. Like, he's like slamming his head on the glass, like,
right.
you know, it's like, I'm not even in the academic part where they're setting up of, like, you know, he's creating this groundbreaking thing. That's not the focal point. The focal point is this man is really intense about this, and like too intense about this, you know? And so it's like that gets so lost in the message that at the end I was like, oh yeah. Like he did something. He got that award for something, and it's like that's a big award, a Nobel Peace Prize, and for me to just like still not even know, like, why did he get it? Like what great thing did he do to deserve that, you know? It's like I feel like it could have just been done a little bit better.
Well, this movie won Best Picture at the Oscars that year.
I believe it. That doesn't surprise me.
This movie won 4 Oscars. It won Best Picture, Best Actress in a Supporting Role for Jennifer Connelly's role, Best Director for Ron Howard, and Best Adapted Screenplay for Akiva Goldsman. It was also nominated for Best Actor in a Leading Role for Russell Crowe, Best Film Editing, Best Makeup, and Best Original Score. Russell Crowe lost Best Actor to Denzel Washington in Training Day that year. Russell Crowe also won Best Actor the year prior for Gladiator, which also won Best Picture. So it's like, yeah, let's not give this man that much of a victory lap with this movie.
I love me some Denzel.
Yeah. Well, any other thoughts before I get into some facts?
No, I mean, overall, I enjoyed the movie.
Cool. I mean, to your point about like his academics and like he's just trying to kind of like find this theory for the beginning of the movie. Apparently, one of the real life John Nash's professors before he went to Princeton, one of his professors that wrote him a letter of recommendation to Princeton, wrote him a letter where all it said was, "This man is a genius."
Wow.
Yeah. Can you imagine? Like, you got to be such a somebody in that field to be writing a letter of recommendation and just write, "This student that I'm recommending is a genius," and that's all you need to know.
Yeah.
Which is also just like not something that would ever happen.
Yeah.
The privilege.
I was just thinking that. I was
Yes.
like, wow.
Yes. All right. So there's that. Yeah. And everything that you were kind of saying about like, this movie just feels too wild. It can't even really be like real. Well, when the real life John Nash watched the movie and was asked what he thought of the movie, he said, "I liked it a lot, but it wasn't me."
Yeah.
And that seems appropriate. Other facts. The film was shot in sequence so Russell Crowe could develop his mannerisms progressively as the film went on. I thought that was
I
interesting.
forget that films are like filmed out of order.
Yeah,
I was like, as opposed to. I'm like, oh yeah, they don't film things like chronologically.
Yeah. The film had a math advisor, which is no surprise to anybody.
They should have got a psychologist.
Well, I'm sure they had psychologist advisors, but there's a specific reason I'm bringing up the math advisor.
Gotcha.
And that is that the math advisor was also Russell Crowe's hand double for whenever he had to write equations. I thought you'd like that.
That's funny. I mean, that's fair.
Right.
Some of those symbols, I can't write.
Another fun fact is that, so when he finds out that he's winning the Nobel Peace Prize from that guy, he's inside the faculty lounge. And earlier in the movie, when he goes to the faculty lounge, he sees like when some faculty at Princeton like achieves a lifetime, like has completed some kind of lifetime achievement, then there's this whole ceremony of pens where all the different scholars are like, congratulations, and like laying out their pens on the table to basically, congratulate them for their lifetime achievement. And so, like, you know, he wins the Nobel Peace Prize. He finds out while he's sitting in the faculty lounge, and everybody's like, John. And they start pulling out their pens, and the musical score is going off, and you're like, oh, it's like earlier in the movie. The ceremony of pens is not a real thing. They made that up.
Honestly, that was like the most horrific part of the movie. I was like, I am not giving up my nice pen for anybody.
Yeah, it was weird because it was like a lot of they were all kind of giving away the same type of pen, and I'm like, where did everybody get this pen?
These
They don't
pens
really
from?
explain the ceremony of pens very well.
That's funny.
Like, do they pick them up in a bin before they walked in?
Oh my
And
gosh.
they're like, all right, these are the pens we're gonna give to John later. Wait for the surprise.
Surprise! Here's your pen. That's so funny. I love a good nice pen though.
I do love me a nice pen.
Right? Like if I was gifted a nice pen, I'd be like, ooh.
All right, some other fun facts. The niece, Charles's niece, Charles not being real, therefore the niece is also not real. There's a scene where she runs through a field of birds at one point, but none of the birds move, which is to hint that she's not real before they've revealed that she's not real.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was a pretty cool detail.
That is cool. I didn't notice that.
Yeah. Me neither. But I read it as a piece of trivia, so it must be real.
You need to go back.
I need to go back. Yeah, for sure. Another fun fact. So this movie was directed by Ron Howard, and at one point you were like, is that Bryce Dallas Howard?
I was like, there's Bryce.
That was indeed Bryce Dallas Howard making a cameo in the movie.
Yeah. I know Bryce when I see her.
I have two more pieces of trivia, one being more serious and sad than the other, and I don't want to finish on that note, so I will say that one first.
Oh, no.
The real life John and Alicia Nash died in a car accident
Oh my gosh.
on May 23rd, 2015, when their taxi driver lost control of their car and collided with another car, and I think the median or the guardrail on the New Jersey Turnpike, and they were both 86 and 82 years old.
Oh, well, I mean,
Yeah.
at least they lived a long life.
Right, they lived a long life. Got a movie made about them.
Oh my gosh.
No, yeah, but they lived a long life. They were still together, and like, what more could you ask for at that point? You know?
Yeah.
So I mean that sucks that it's like somebody who was so big and influential to just like die from a car accident, but
Yeah.
but I mean, yeah, the upside is that like they were up there, and so like you can't say that they didn't live a full life.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then my last thing to kind of like smooth the blow of that is just that Jennifer Connelly and Paul Bettany got married soon after this movie was released.
They were married? Are they still married?
I don't know if they're still married, but they got married after this movie was released.
What?
Right?
That's so random.
Right?
Something about her. I don't know. And I feel like I never like her character in movies.
Top Gun?
No, I don't like Top Gun. I've never seen Top Gun.
No. Well, she's not in Top Gun. She's in Top Gun
The new
Maverick. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't really care about her in that one.
Wow, Paul Bettany and Jennifer Connelly got married January 1st, 2003, and they are still married and have 2 children.
What?
Yep.
How random. You mean he's not married to
Elizabeth Olsen?
Elizabeth Olsen?
No. What?
They should get married.
That's his Marvel relationship.
I like them better.
Well, anyway. Any other thoughts?
No.
All right. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed my movie. I've been sitting on that one for a while.
Yeah.
I literally have not watched it since 10th grade.
Yeah.
But it always really stuck with me as like a really interesting movie. Like it's almost like Fight Club in that it has this like big twist
Yeah.
where, you realize
I'm glad I guessed it.
the main character is like an unreliable point of view.
Yeah.
And yeah, but you guessed it.
You always. I'm a clinical psychologist.
Well, no, but like, shut up. No, but I mean, you have a habit of always guessing exactly what's about to happen when we watch certain movies. So, bravo, touche. I mean, when I was watching it, knowing what this twist was going to be, I was paying a lot more attention. I was like, oh my gosh, like, oh yeah, like nobody else is talking to Charles. Like it seems so obvious once you then know. But the movie does do a good job of making sure.
I had no clue.
You had no clue.
I had no clue.
Okay, awesome. I did read that Ron Howard made sure that anytime one of those characters started talking to John, that the viewer of the movie would hear the character talking first, then cut to them like talking so that you could see them. So you'd hear them first and then it would cut and you'd see them talk to basically add to that perspective of like it's all coming from John and nobody else can actually see these people.
No, I had no clue. And like when I said, I was like, is he just like, is this not real? Like, is he like making this up? Like it was. Well,
it was
just like an odd comment because I was just like, this is just wild.
Yeah, like, no, it does bubble to a point. I mean, by the time that you were like, it's all gonna be in his head. It was like, well, it kind of like it's almost like it's the only reasonable explanation.
I think it was a shootout. That's when I was like,
oh yeah.
I think if I remember, I think that was when I was like,
that was like, this is kind of sus.
Yeah,
for sure, for sure.
What is he doing?
Okay, well, yep, that's my movie. Glad you liked it.
Cool. Do you want to do assignments?
Yeah.
Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
I could go. So, I wrote down. Feel free to say no to this, because I'm not even sure if I'm ready for it. But I wrote down this movie months ago, like a couple of months ago, because it's to line up with like a theatrical release. So The Expendables 4 comes out, I think the Friday after next. And
I didn't even know they were making a fourth one.
I know. They have not done a very good job advertising it, I will say. But The Expendables
this is
4
news to me.
Yeah. The Expendables 4 comes out next Friday. And I really like The Expendables 2. I'm not crazy about The Expendables 1, but The Expendables 2, by comparison, is pretty lit. I haven't even seen The Expendables 3, because Expendables 1 and 2 were rated R, and Expendables 3 was then like, they did such a good job with Expendables 2, and they decided to make Expendables 3 PG-13.
Like make more money? I
guess, but I mean, people didn't end up liking it that much.
Yeah.
And now, Expendables 4 is coming out, and I'm like, big whoop. But Expendables 2 was pretty tight. Anyway, so feel free to say no to Expendables 2, because I have a pretty fun backup.
I mean, I don't care. Do what you want.
Well, so the reason I'm like hesitant is because we just like, I've got all these martial arts movies that I want to sign you, and like this kind of falls into that same category because it's got a lot of like action stars, and we just watched The Raid Redemption, which is a much more grittier, much more in line with the Expendables like type of martial arts action movie. It's much more of an action movie than a martial arts movie. And then we watched The Raid 2 while we were in Kentucky, and that was just like, really, really gritty and violent, and I'm like, do we want to watch another one of those kinds of movies now?
Is your other choice like a comedy?
My other choice is Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger, which is such a weird movie, but like, it's partially action, but partially just like, what the hell is this?
Maybe let's do that one, because I feel like what I want to assign you is also absolutely ridiculously insane.
Okay, cool. Yeah, all right. Total Recall. See, that was easy.
Okay.
That being said, I would love to watch The Expendables 2 sometime.
That's fine.
All right.
Okay, cool.
Total Recall.
All right. I'm going to assign you something that I am probably really going to regret.
Oh, no.
but it's a movie that I hate to say it, I really like.
Okay.
It is not a great movie. It is probably really problematic.
Yeah. I'm picking up that vibe.
And that is Malibu's Most Wanted.
Oh. Sick. No. Yeah, no, this is great.
I freaking love this
Are you kidding
movie.
me? Total Recall, Malibu's Most Wanted.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Oh, that's going to do gangbusters. I love that. That's a great matchup. No, that's dope. Yeah. Yes, let's do that.
I love Malibu's Most Wanted. It's like one of my favorites.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No. Yeah. Total Recall for sure.
Malibu's Most Wanted is very self-aware. So,
Okay.
problematic.
No, problematic for sure. Yeah.
But self-aware. It's like that's the
Yeah.
point. It's like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
knows that it's like poking fun at like
Yeah.
this would be problematic, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was problematic. It was pre-problematic in 2002 when it came out. Like if it knew it was problematic in 2002 in the era of problem, like it was problematic for when things were already problematic. That's how problematic it is.
What?
I don't. Problematicception. All right.
Like, what are you saying?
I know. I sound like just spouting out nonsense. Let's move on. So next week, that means we will be doing Total Recall and Malibu's Most Wanted. That sounds great.
It's gonna be so much fun.
All right. We'll see you then. Hope you enjoyed the episode that ended up being longer than
I told you
what I said it was going to be. We are at like 110 minutes, just under 2 hours, getting it under the wire. We'll see you next time. Hope you enjoyed the episode. It's good to be back. Maybe next week's will be a shorter episode. We'll see.
Yeah.
Enjoy your week, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.